Welcome to today's news on TV9. I'm Ada Cho. In today's local news, watch our reporters get into this year's Auckland Food Show and the Wynyard Quarter's first birthday celebration and find out what the hype is all about. And as for the Prime Minister's deal with Sky City, academics are saying the deal is against the law. What started out as just a gourmet food show has transformed into a much anticipated annual event for both businesses and consumers alike. Kay Chow tells how the food show is stealing the spotlight this weekend.
The newest, coolest food, drinks, equipment and celebrity chefs are all packed under one roof. There's always something for everyone at the food show. Started out in 2000 as a small gourmet food show with just 100 exhibitors, the food show has grown exponentially since.
Bit by bit, word of mouth spread, and so from 100 companies in the first year of the food show in 2000 to now 300 companies. And we don't exactly have a waiting list, but we do. Space gets really cramped by the end of the selling cycle. People want to get into the food show.
This year, food show is back with international food exhibitors from Korea and Sri Lanka. An ever so popular Electrolux cooking theatre has a new addition.
First of all, there's 300 companies exhibiting here. So you can imagine they're all small to medium-sized businesses, and they're sampling and selling. That's the big thing of the food show. But we also have the Electrolux Cooking Theatre, which is a free-to-attend event where people can come and see their favorite chefs live. This year we introduced a new theatre called the Master Classes. So these are for people that want an intimate session with the chef of their choice, so they can sit with Al Brown or Ray McVinney or Lorraine Jacobs and have their own little time. They get a goodie bag worth $40 or more when they leave. The feedback we're getting from it is fantastic.
The opportunity just never ceases at the food show. Don't pass up on the chance to learn from the top chefs and see what exciting and delicious treats are waiting for you. Kay Chow, 9 News.
Join in the celebration this weekend for Aucklanders' waterfront's new go-to spots. Amy Chin reports.
Auckland has a new hotspot destination. Wynyard Quarter will celebrate its first birthday this weekend. Auckland Waterfront Communications' Luke Henshaw describes the significance of celebrating the new Wynyard Quarter.
What the opening of the first stage of Wynyard Quarter 2 was totally reopen the waterfront to Aucklanders and visitors to Auckland, with 7 capital projects that were rolled out in the space of 16 months is a significant milestone.
Previously known for the farm and fish market, the area is now a vibrant mix of public spaces and restaurants, including North Wharf and Karaga Plaza.
Very nice. Yeah, very nice indeed. Yeah, it's been a long time happening in Auckland. Yeah.
Will you be coming down this weekend?
We'll be definitely coming this weekend.
Kicking off this weekend will be a sing-along at 7 a.m. with walking tours, a yacht display and many more along during the day. As Henshaw highlights, it is an event that will draw in appreciation for the new developments.
It's followed by a 76-year-old tugboat which is setting up a new home in Wynyard Quarter called the William C. Douldy. There'll be public sailings available on that old tugboat throughout the day. There's other free activities like that. There's going to be lantern making workshops where kids and families can come down and make paper lanterns that will then be launched later in the day.
Upgrades will see the rest of Wynyard Quarter transformed into harbourside community with apartments, retailers and parks starting next year. Amy Chan, 9 News.
Charter schools could offer choice and hope to parents whose children were being failed by the standard school system. Prime Minister John Key said the government wants to see a better performance for young New Zealanders, and the charter schools were a way of giving parents more choices. Teachers at charter schools would have to be registered, and there would be consequences for those who didn't meet the education targets set by the government. The Prime Minister's Convention Centre deal with Sky City has been labelled by academics as a mockery of the law aimed at protecting people from the harm of gambling, but John Key is dismissing it as a weak argument. Christy Jar reports.
2 academics have written in an international journal accusing John Key's personal approach to the Sky City Convention Centre deal of failing the law designed to protect public health. In the article, Dr. Peter Adams and Dr. Fiona Rawson say there are many provisions in the Gambling Act that aim to respond to harm associated with gambling. But the government's $350 million deal with Sky City has gone ahead without any considerations of those aspects of the law.
I think we're dealing with long-term regulatory failure. I mean, it's systemic failure that's been going on for the last 20, 30 years. We've seen the expansion of poker machine gambling almost unrestrained with very few provisions or serious attempts to look at how we might moderate the amount of gambling harm associated with that expansion.
But Prime Minister John Key says the number of pokie machines in the country is on the decrease, and he dismisses criticisms levelled at Sky City and the law as weak arguments.
The stricter host responsibilities on casinos mean that for the most part, they do a pretty good job of trying to administer their responsibilities. Now, if they don't, then that's a matter for internal affairs to take that up with someone like Sky City, and if people don't like Sky City, don't ultimately observe the requirements on them, they can lose their licence. So
he says he has seen studies where it's shown New Zealand to have some of the world's best practice. But Dr. Adams says the various roles of internal affairs and the Ministry of Health are often confusing, and he's calling for more government action to advance harm minimisation. The convention centre deal is currently being investigated by the Auditor General. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
Apple is preparing to introduce the next version of the iPhone on September the 12th. According to Insider, the new iPhone will have a larger screen with a thinner body, and it's expected to work with faster long-term evolution wireless networks. The new design will be Apple's first for the best-selling smartphones since 2010. Have you ever had a beer with Jesus? Well, Amy Chen has the story for you.
A sports bar is typically surrounded by rowdy drinkers and sports blaring out of flat screens. Well, times have changed. People over the age of 18 can now receive church services at the Albany Sports Bar. Pastors Calvin Culverwell and Vic Francis worked on the project for a year and talks about how they came up with this original idea.
Well, we want to do a church where a church culture can meet with popular culture. So for a lot of people, going to a church building is quite a difficult thing, but going to a bar is not that difficult. So we thought, well, if we do our church in a bar setting, that's one thing that they don't have to get over to be able to come and join us.
The congregation will be provided with pizza and fries, with the choice of beverage, including beer and other soft drinks, left up to the attendants.
I think you kind of get a little bit of backlash from something like this, but for the most part, people have actually been pretty excited about it. They like the idea of being able to just come and sit down and talk and express their own opinion. And, I think people value the opportunity to talk about God rather than hear about God.
Despite the controversies, both Culverwell and Francis will focus on support services instead of singing and other sermons.
Each month, it's going to be monthly, each month we have a different subject. So the first month is Who is Jesus? So we're going to explore Jesus. There'll be 2 presentations, short presentations, and then discussion around tables among the people who are there. So some people will think Jesus is God. Some people will think he's just a historical figure, and they get to just share their ideas and talk about it. But I guess churches have probably felt like they should look a certain way and meet a certain way. This is just a small idea of doing it somewhat differently.
The Albany Sports Bar service will run every first Sunday, starting this month at 7 p.m. Amy Chen, 9 News.
A survey has found that the number of Kiwis dining out each week is down 10% from last year, but people are eating more cleverly and restaurants are finding ways to cope. Christy Zhao reports.
The 3rd annual American Express Dining Survey found that the number of New Zealanders dining out once a week has dropped 10% from last year. The survey asked 1,000 people 18 years or older about their eating out habits, and it showed 30% of respondents saying they were dining out less frequently, and a further 12% saying they were eating at less expensive places. Restaurant Association Chief Executive Marissa Bidwa says it's all to do with people feeling the pinch in the pocket.
Well, I think it's still the economic conditions. It's still very tough out there in the economic environment. So I think people are adjusting their habits accordingly.
The survey also found about 30% of respondents saying they were taking advantage of special offers and deals. And for many diners, the quality of food was the main deciding factor when eating out. Bidwa says restaurateurs are also finding their ways to cope.
The environment really demands that restaurateurs remain nimble and creative in their approach to cuisine. So I think essentially in some ways there is restaurateurs are out there, they're still trying to draw in customers, they're working hard in their businesses and just kind of looking at where they can not necessarily scrimp on quality but still provide a service that's going to attract a lot of people.
Bidwa says events like Auckland Restaurant Month are good for encouraging more dining, especially in August when it's traditionally quiet. The survey also found that over half of Kiwis are still dining out monthly. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
Now we have our TV9 host from Asia Focus, Julie Nixon, to comment on deliberate losses that served disqualification.
The Olympic motto is Citius Altius Fortius, which is Latin for faster, higher, stronger. The motto was proposed by Pierre de Coubertin on creation of the International Olympic Committee in 1894. While the motto clearly had running, jumping and throwing events in mind, it also applies to the other Olympic sports, including badminton. So the move by the Badminton World Federation to kick out 4 teams from the women's doubles at the London Games for trying to lose on purpose is justified. Such behaviour is incompatible with Olympic values. 2 players from China, 2 from Indonesia and 4 from South Korea stood accused and were removed from the competition. The debacle began when the second-string Chinese pair unexpectedly lost to a Danish team, putting them on course for a semi-final meeting with China's world champion #1 team. The world champions Yang Xiaoli and Yu Yang then set about to deliberately lose a game against South Korea, so they'd go into the bottom half of the draw. Unsurprisingly, the match drew jeers of derision from the crowd who yelled "off, off, off." An hour later, another South Korean team tried to lose to the Indonesians to avoid meeting Wang and Yu in the quarterfinals. Early on in the match, all 4 players were warned by the umpire for not trying, but in the end both teams were disqualified, albeit temporarily. The cards were then rescinded on the promise of better play. However, the Indonesians ended up being better at losing than the Koreans, who got lumped with the playoff they didn't want against the world champions. The situation was a circus. In the spirit of the Olympic motto, sport should be competitive. Without a competitive element, the concept of an Olympic Games becomes nonsense. In China, the state news agency Xinhua published a strongly worded editorial condemning its badminton players, and the Chinese Olympic delegation has begun an investigation into the matter. While it must be tough to be world champions and to be disqualified, in the fullness of time, the sport will be better off. On this occasion, the world champions were the losers, but sport was the winner.